and get your minis painted quickly. With contrast paints, we're going to paint some World War II Commandos, do them quick, and you can use these techniques for almost any model. Now, I've been painting Commandos, particularly, for about 10 years. Also, I've been painting models for 10 years. A lot of experience, and I've made all your mistakes, so watch on. But just before you watch on, if you watch until the end, I'm going to show you a lovely little technique, very easy, to paint your eyeballs on your minis. So for Commandos, the first colour we've done is we just base coated it with a very light grey, because we're going to be using these contrast colours from Citadel paints. So a very light grey or even a white would do fine. And the first colour we're going to put on top of that is going to be Agros Dunes, because that's going to cover most of the model. It's going to be the battle dress and that'll cover most of the model, so we'll get that colour done first. So here we're using Agros Dunes for the first little bit, doing the uniform. And we'll just take some out. We'll put it onto the palette here. So we're just taking it out, dropping some onto the palette. There we go, that should probably be enough with this brush nicely loaded. And we're just going to take this and spread it all around doing the uniform. Now we just lay this colour on, Agros Dunes, and we just want to lay it on anywhere where the uniform is. Being a little bit careful. And we don't want to put it anywhere where we don't want the uniform colour to be. So as you see, we're just going to go around and do that, and being careful as we're going. And we're just going to cover all the base uniform in that colour. After one coat, this is what we've got. Notice how we've tried to stay clear as much as possible of anything that's going to be painted with another colour. I want this colour to be darker, so we're going to go over it. We're going to add another coat of this and possibly a third coat, and then we'll see what it looks like. Here we are back again. We're going to do a second coat. We'll take some more out. We'll just add it a wee bit just to make sure we've got enough. And then we'll make sure the brush is loaded, and we'll get the second coat on the uniform. Now with two coats on, this is what it's looking like. And we're just going to go for another coat just to darken it up a wee bit further. And here we are, back for a third coat. I've got enough there. And we'll get that onto the uniform. That should make it dark enough now. Spreading it about. We're using a Wargamer Regiment brush from Army Painter to apply this. After the three coats, it's looking pretty good. So now we'll move on and we'll tackle the Bergen. So next we're going to do the pack on the back, and for that colour we're going to use Militarum Green. Nice green to bring out that iconic Commando Bergen on the back. So we'll go with a couple of layers of this. So here we're going to get some Militarum Green contrast paint onto the palette here. We'll just spread some in, just taking it off. There's plenty in the lid there, maybe a wee bit more. There we go. And then a bit of water, we'll load up the brush and we'll get a layer onto this rucksack. We're using Militarum Green here, and we're going to paint the Bergen, and we're going to try and leave this rope on the back here kind of clear so we can use another colour on that. So we're just going to start to add the Militarum Green, and we'll give that a generous coat all over, and then we'll see, we'll maybe go for a second coat. Back again with Militarum Green, we're going to do a second layer onto the rucksack. After one coat of the green, I'm going to go for another coat just to make it a little bit darker on these Bergens, which are sort of iconic with the Marines. And So I'm happier with that colour now, and we're going to move on and we're going to paint the rope up next. We're going to do the boots, and we'll have a look at painting the guns. So we'll do those sections next. For the rope that each of the Bergens carries, almost all the Bergens in this kit have rope on the back of them. We're going to use Skeleton Horde, a nice kind of ropey colour, hopefully. And again, I'm going to do a couple of layers of this, just using the same techniques as before. For the rope on the back of the rucksack, we're going to use Skeleton Horde. Again, we'll just lace them out on the pallet. There we go. We don't need quite so much as this as we did of the other colour. And we'll go ahead and we'll do a layer of the Skeleton Horde. So we've got the paint on our brush, just spreading on. Going to be fairly generous here with this one, but you get the idea. Not an awful lot to do. And again, it's coming out a bit light. So I'm going to use 2 coats on this again. We're going to darken down the colour on the rope at the back with the Skeleton Horde. I've got enough there now. It's still not dried out quite yet. And we'll go on for that second coat. Now we've painted up the rope. We're going to let that dry. But while that's being left to dry, we're going to paint the boots. And that's going to be in Black Legion contrast paint, because it's not going to be touching anywhere else that's wet. And we need to give the contrast paints about 40 minutes or so to dry out properly. To the boots. So we're going to do the boots in Black Legion. Again, another one of the Citadel contrast colours, the main colours we're using today. And we'll get those boots done. The boots on the model are next. We're going to use Black Legion contrast here from Citadel colour. Again, just opening up. Don't need too much of this on the palette. We'll just drop a wee bit down there. And that should do us. So we're just going to paint the boat boots. Try to be careful not to go on the gaiters just up here. We're just going to give this a nice generalist application of the Black Legion. Making a start on the Tommy gun now. We're going to use the Basilicanum Grey here. So it's going to show up nicely. We'll do all the metal parts on the guns that colour, and then we'll carry on from there. And moving on from the boots, we're going to do the colour on the gun. For this, we're going to use Basilicanum Grey. We don't really need very much, so just a little spot on there. That'll do us fine. And we'll get that gun all sorted out. So loaded a little bit of grey onto the brush there. We're going to try and be fairly careful. And we'll just spread that around, trying to get in all the parts there. Trying to keep it off this little wooden butt that's below my brush at the moment. So the next stage is going to be the flesh. This is where it starts to come alive. And for this, we've switched from contrast colours. We're going to use War Paints Fanatic from Army Painter here, and I'm using Barbarian Flesh. Love this colour. We'll give it a wee bit of a shake. We'll put some out on the palette here, just like this. We don't need an awful lot. I'm going to add a little bit of water, because we're going to use 2 coats here. So I'll just dip my brush in the water there. We'll just add a little bit of water, and then we'll mix it in a little bit. And then just get it, there we go. And as we brush, bring the brush to a nice point, and we can get those 2 coats of flesh on there. So we're applying the flesh colour to the face and to the hands. We'll do 2 thin coats, keeping all the detail. So we've put the base coat of the flesh in there, and now I'm going to use a Caliban green base colour for the berry, because I want that to be a nice solid colour. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, now Commandos are known for their iconic green berry, which they got by the end of the war. So we're going to paint the berry next, and again I'm going to use not a contrast paint this time. I'm going to use the base colour Caliban Green from Citadel Paints. It'll go on nicely, it'll give us a good coat, and a couple of thin coats of that when it's watered down do the job nicely. Now the iconic berry for the Commandos, we're going with the base colour here, Citadel colour again, Caliban green. It's a lovely base colour, doesn't take too many coats. My experience is great. We'll just need the one coat, put a little bit on the palette, just add a little bit of water to this one. We don't really need to add water to the contrast paints, but we'll do 2 wee coats of this colour. Now we've loaded up the brush onto the berry. So we've watered down the Caliban green a little bit, and we're just going to add that all over the berry here. Get a nice clean coat on all the way around. Be nice and careful, stay off the flesh. And here's the berry done with that Caliban green. It's looking almost there. So the next thing we're going to tackle is the webbing here, and for that we're going to use the contrast Plague Bearer Flesh. But just before I do that, I'm going to go over in Army Painter Company Grey acrylic paint over these straps on the webbing which have been painted over, because we want them to come up in that nice green just to tie it all in. Nearly starting to look complete now, so we're going to go and tidy up some of the bits that we need to have nice and clean for the contrast paint to go on. So anywhere where maybe the browns have gone on to bits that we're now going to do green, because after this we're going to go on and start doing the webbing and the canvas parts. So switch to a Insane Detail brush here for this, because there's a little bit of fine work on some of the straps at the front, and we're painting it in with, I'm using Company Grey from this, from Army Paints, but any light grey, off-white would do fantastic for this. Now we're going to tidy up the model a little bit for the next colour that comes after this, which is for the webbing and any canvas bits. And I'm using Company Grey here, again, War Paints Fanatic from Army Painter. Nice light colour, doesn't matter too much, as long as it's a light grey, even a white would do, just to touch up the little bits where we've maybe done a little bit of overspill on some of the other colours. And I'm going to be using my Insane Detail brush here from Army Painter for this one, because some of the bits are quite narrow for the webbing straps and things. So I want to have a nice thin brush here. So here we're going to look at little straps on the back coming over the shoulder. Straps coming down the side and the front here. And this little strap going across the chest. And we're going to paint those all in this very light grey, so that when we apply the contrast paint, it shows up as we want it to. And I'm going to go over any other little bits. See the gaiter at the back here that we've just had some overflow on. And we're going to paint up any of those little bits, just put them back to grey, so that when we do the webbing colour, it's all going to come out nice and neat. So I've touched up some of those areas we wanted to be grey again, so that we can now go and do the contrast Plague Bearer Flesh for the canvas parts on this and the webbing. So we're going to do the webbing and the canvas, as I said before. For this, I'm going to use the Plague Bearer Flesh from Citadel Colours, the contrast paint for this. There's lots of different colours that it could be, and I'm just doing it in this particular one. You could do it a more browny colour, maybe slightly similar to the skeleton horde that we used. Could work. There's various different colours. If you have a look it up on the internet, webbing came in all shapes and sizes, and quite a few colours. So use what works best on your model. Switch back to my Army Painter War Games Regiment brush, and we're using Plague Bearer Flesh for the webbing. Give it a wee shake, and we'll be quite generous with this. Get some out onto the plate here. There we go, onto the wee palette. Should be enough. And load up the brush. I'm going to thin it out just a wee bit, and we're going to start applying this generously. And again, probably going to do 2 coats with this one. So we've got some colour, and anywhere where the webbing is, we're just going to touch it over with the plague bearer's flesh, trying not to get it on the hands or anything. So we're going to do the webbing. That's all this webbing in here, the belts, and down here we're going to do the putties down here, and we're going to give them a good coat, and not forgetting the pack for the digging tool at the back here. So here we go with plague bearer flesh on the canvas and webbing, and I want to darken it down a bit, so I'm going to go for another coat and we'll see how that turns out. So yeah, once I've got it on, it looks as though it needs to be a wee bit darker. This is still wet, so we'll use that. We'll go over with the second coat here. So the second coat seems to have darkened it down a bit. I'm fairly happy with that. So now we're going to go on and we're going to do the dark brown for the wood and a little bit on the bottle here. And we're going to go over the flesh part with Guilliman flesh. So we're down to doing the wood parts, which are the little wood parts on the submachine gun, on the grip and on the stock. And then I'm going to do the water bottle in dark brown colour too. Getting close to the end here, we're going to go to snakebite leather contrast paint. This is going to be for any of the dark brown wood or any other dark brown bits. I think we're going to do the water bottle in this colour. There's not too much of this colour needed. The wooden bits on the gun and that little water bottle. And we'll now go and apply this. So using snakebite leather here, just a little bit, I'm going to cover these little quarters of the water bottle here in this colour, nice and gentle. And I'm also going to do the little wooden stock here and a little bit of wooden stock up in here. So we've given over the wood on the gun, and I've used the brown on the water bottle here, and now we're going to go over the flesh bits with Guilliman flesh just to fill it in and give it a bit of detail. And I've also done the hair that's visible. I went over that in the brown as well, just to give that bit of detail. I'm going to use Guilliman flesh just to bring out the details on the painted flesh that I've done, and I'll just make it a wee bit give it a bit more detail, a bit more grittiness. When we're looking at it from about 3 feet for tabletop use, this is going to look really quite good. So the last details coming up now, we're going to go over the flesh colour that we did. That was the Barbarian flesh from Army Painter. And we're just going to cover it over with this Guilliman flesh. Again, we don't need too much of that. Just touch it onto the plate there. And we're going to apply this anywhere where we've got flesh, just to add a little bit of detail. So the brush is loaded, and we're just going to go over with Guilliman brown. We'll take some of that off. There's a bit much on there, so we're just wiping some off. We're going to spread that about, and we'll use some of the excess on the rest of the hands here. And you can see what we're doing, just spreading that around, making sure it gets everywhere. And we'll finish that off. So now that wash of Guilliman flesh contrast colour just brings out the flesh. We're more or less almost finished now. The only thing left to do really is the straps on the iconic Commando Bergen. And for that, we're actually going to use Warpaint Fanatic from Army Painter. And we're going to use Olive Drab just to bring those out and make it pop. The last thing we need to do is on the iconic Bergen, we're just going to pick out some of the detail with Olive Drab now. Again, this is Warpaint's Fanatic from Army Painter. And we're just going to pick out those details to start to finish it off. So we've got the paint on the brush, and we're just going to follow these details on the Bergen. All the straps, they stand out fairly well. Nice and careful. And we're just going to highlight all these straps. There we go. Now we've done the straps on the Bergen. It's all looking good. Nice tabletop quality. You look at this from 3 feet away, it's going to look quite nice. Nice and easy to do. If you have any questions or you've got any queries, just pop us a message. Or why not go to Facebook to the War HQ group and join us there and join in with the conversations. So, looking half decent now. Finished. I'm just going to base it off quickly so we can get a little bit of a look at it and get some pictures done of it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, share, and there's going to be a little tip on eyes just coming after this, so watch on. So the wee tip for doing your eyes. We're going to use this pen. It's a Uni Pen Fine Line 0.1, so it's very thin. And if we bring this up, you can see it's quite a little nib to it. And we're going to use this for dotting in our eyeballs. So we're painting the whites of the eyes here, and we're just going to dot in one dot. And on this side, I'm going to hold them upside down so you can see it going in. Very careful, one little dot. There we go. And a little bit cross-eyed. If I wasn't doing this for the camera here, it'd probably work a bit better. But you can see that's going to make doing your eyes really quite quick. We'll touch this one up a little bit. But there's your little tip. Use a little fine marker pen for drawing to dot in your eyeballs.